Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Arundhati Ramnan and these are the top headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. A late sell-off wipes out the gains on Dalal Street after Nifty hit a record high in early trade. Mid-cap index manages to hold its head above water. For the first time in a decade, India's top 4 IT companies report a decline in headcount. TCS, Infosys, Wipro and HCL see an aggregate decline of 62,000 in headcount in FY24. This comes after aggressive hiring by IT companies during the pandemic period. The Supreme Court slams the Uttarakhand State Licensing Authority for dragging its feet on Patanjali Ayurved. This comes a day after the Uttarakhand officials suspend the manufacturing license for 14 Patanjali products for 3 months. The court also exempts Ramdev from personally appearing for the next hearing in the misleading advertisements case. Food safety authorities in Uttar Pradesh raid McDonald's and Theobroma outlets after orders by a district magistrate. Samples have been taken of food items and sent for testing. Insurance regulator is likely to increase the refund or surrender value to policy holders who surrender the policy before maturity. The amount will likely be higher than current value but lower than what was proposed in December last year. India needs to double up and consider incentives for advanced research and development in semiconductors, says Macron India chief Anand Ramamurthy. The company is setting up its plant in Gujarat and will begin manufacturing in the first half of 2025. Israel and Hamas weigh a fresh ceasefire proposal as pressure mounts on both sides to halt the fighting. In the United States, pro-Palestine protesters take over Columbia University building. Dozens of students also arrested across Texas, Utah and Virginia. AstraZeneca tells a British court its COVID vaccine can cause a rare side effect which leads to blood clots and low platelet counts, but also adds that causal mechanism is not known as it faces a barrage of class action lawsuits in the UK. AstraZeneca vaccine was branded as Covishield in India and manufactured by Serum Institute. Janata Dal Secular suspends outgoing MP and Hassan Lok Sabha candidate Prajwal Revanna over alleged sex tapes case. The party says that he has been suspended till the SIT probe is over. An FIR on grounds of sexual harassment and criminal intimidation has been filed as well. Prajwal has reportedly left the country. Rohit Sharma will lead India at the upcoming T20 World Cup next month. Hardik Pandya named his deputy. Rishabh Pant and Sanju Samson picked as wicketkeepers. Yuzvendra Chahal makes a comeback. Shubman Gill and Rinku Singh named in the reserves. So let's start with the stock market action of the day. Sensex and Nifty ended in the red after a rapid sell-off in the last hour. Nifty hit a record high in early trade but lost all gains in the last hour. Bank stocks also declined over there and they were hit quite hard, but the mid-cap index managed to keep its head above water, ending mildly in the green. Indian Oil Corporation's fourth quarter earnings missed expectations with profit down 40% quarter-on-quarter. Revenue at 1.97 lakh crore is not only less than estimates but also less than what it made in the previous quarter. Margins came in at 5.3% versus 7.8% in the third quarter. And for the first time in a decade, India's top 4 IT companies have reported a decline in headcount. TCS, Infosys, Wipro and HCL see an aggregate decline of 62,000 in headcount at the end of the last financial year. This comes after aggressive hiring by IT companies during the pandemic period. Reema Tendulkar is here with all of those details. Reema?
Well, thank you very much for that. Well, the big headline is that headcount at the top 4 IT companies, TCS, Infosys, Wipro and HCL Tech, has declined for the first time in over a decade. Now, CNBC-TV18 has compiled the data and it shows in FY24, the net headcount has declined by an aggregate of 62,000. This comes on the back of an 85,000 approximately addition that happened in FY23 and about 2.4 lakh, a whopping 2.4 lakh employees which got added to the top 4 IT companies in FY24. That was the big year when IT companies hired aggressively in the post-pandemic digital boom. In fact, Q4 FY24, that's the March quarter, was the 5th consecutive quarter when the top 4 IT companies have reported an aggregate decline in headcount. And all the companies except HCL Tech, that's the other three, TCS, Infy, Wipro, reported a net headcount decline in FY24, and the biggest headcount cut was seen in Wipro and Infosys at approximately 25,000 employees for the full year. Now let's go over the reasons why this took place, why headcount has declined on an aggregate for the top 4 IT companies for the first time in over a decade. Well, the first reason is a meaningful slowdown in growth as discretionary spending environment turned adverse due to high interest rates, cautious client consumer sentiment in the mainstay markets of US and Europe. So growth declined from double digits in FY23 to low single digits, with Wipro actually recording a decline in their revenue in FY24. Less growth, less need for employees. Secondly, companies overhired in FY22 due to elevated demand and elevated attrition. As we said, FY22 hiring was a big number of 2.4 lakh employees, which was equal to the cumulative hiring done by these companies over the prior 4 years. The third reason is attrition has come down meaningfully. Now, attrition was running very, very high at more than 20% in FY22. You remember the great resignation which gripped the tech sector during the COVID boom? Well, now attrition has trended back to normal levels of low teens, and therefore companies need to hire less to backfill. And finally, the fourth reason, the growth outlook continues to remain dim. HCL Tech, Infy are just guiding to a low single-digit growth in FY25, and therefore this kind of demand maybe can be serviced by just improving the existing utilization with your employee base by improving the productivity. Remember, the biggest reason to hire is growth, and demand so far hasn't been forthcoming. Back to you.
Right, Rima, many thanks for those details. Now, in global earnings, British banking giant HSBC has beaten street estimates in the first quarter. The bank's revenue rose 3% to $20.8 billion, while net profit fell 2% to $12.65 billion on an annual basis. The company also announced that its chief executive officer, Noel Quinn, will be stepping down from the role after 5 years. HSBC has said that Quinn will continue at the helm until the bank finds a successor. And German automaker Volkswagen's profit declined over 20% to nearly $5 billion in the March quarter. This as weak demand for its premium brands drove a drop in sales. High fixed costs also impacted profit. Volkswagen still expects to achieve its 2024 targets, including a 5% rise in sales revenue. Mercedes-Benz and Stellantis NV also reported weak earnings due to sluggish demand. And back home, the Supreme Court has pulled up the Uttarakhand State Licensing Authority for not taking any action against Patanjali Ayurved. This move has come a day after the Uttarakhand officials suspended the manufacturing license for 14 Patanjali products for 3 months. The court also exempted Baba Ramdev from personally appearing for the next hearing in the misleading advertisements case. Ashmit Kumar joins us now with the details. Ashmit, take us through what the top court has said. All right, we seem to not have Ashmit there at this moment. So we'll come back to Ashmit. We'll take a look at the other headlines that we're tracking for you today. Uttar Pradesh's Food Safety and Drug Administration has raided outlets of McDonald's and Theobroma in Noida. The raid comes after a consumer filed complaint on FSSAI's portal for possible adulteration. Now, authorities are awaiting tests to initiate action against the quick service restaurants. Timsy joins us now with those details. Timsy?
Well, that's right, taking cognizance of a complaint raised by a consumer for alleged adulteration at the FSSAI's Connect portal, Uttar Pradesh State Food and Drug Administration conducted a drive against prominent eateries in Noida, including McDonald's and Theobroma. Sources told CNBC-TV18 that the raids were conducted under the leadership of Assistant Commissioner Archana Dhiran and Chief Food Safety Officer Akshay Goyal. During the raids at Theobroma Foods Private Limited, located at Sector 104 in Noida, samples of pineapple cake were collected for testing. Simultaneously, the team also conducted a raid at McDonald's outlet situated at Sector 16 in Noida. At McDonald's, samples of palm oil, cheese, mayonnaise and tomato ketchup were taken for testing purposes. Currently, these samples have been dispatched for thorough analysis to determine their quality and safety. UP State FDA sources shared that it is awaiting the results of the tests and only then an appropriate action will be taken. Let's see what tests do have to say and what is the action that the government takes. Back to you.
Absolutely. We'll have to wait and watch for that. Thank you so much for those details, Timsy. Now, First Cry has refiled its draft IPO papers with SEBI and has included updated financial metrics. Now, according to a report by the Economic Times, the IPO size will remain the same as before, with the baby products firm looking to raise $500 million. Now, while fresh issue of shares will account for $218 million, the rest will come from an offer for sale. Remember, the company withdrew its IPO papers after the SEBI raised queries about its key performance metrics. Shares of Manappuram Finance jumped 5% in early trade. This after its Asirwad Microfinance received SEBI's green signal to launch an initial public offering. Asirwad Microfinance has initially filed its draft red herring prospectus with the market regulator on the 5th of October in 2023. The company has plans to raise up to 1,500 crore rupees via fresh issue of equity shares. India needs to double up and consider incentives for advanced research and development in semiconductors. That's the word coming in from Micron India chief Anand Ramamurthy. Speaking to Parikshit Luthra, he added that the company is setting up its plant in Gujarat and will begin manufacturing in the first half of 2025. Take a look.
Our construction in the Sanand Gujarat factory is going on in full steam, and we expect the early part of production to start in the first half of next year, which is still a wonderful timeline given that we announced the factory ambitions in July of last year. So we're pretty much on track and everything is on a committed basis. One thing that we, the industry bodies and our peers have been talking to the government is to kind of double up or refocus on the need for advanced R&D. The choice of the next materials used in the transistor design, the materials, the process technology, packaging, advanced packaging in particular is proving to be a very important facet.
Shares of Mahindra & Mahindra hit 52-week highs after the launch of its latest sport utility vehicle, XUV 3XO. This SUV will be available in 9 variants with a starting price of 7.5 lakhs. Now, bookings for the 3XO will be open in May, with deliveries commencing from the 26th of that month. The new launch by Mahindra is expected to rival Tata's Nexon SUV.
There is one part of the SUV segment where we haven't been as successful, and that is really 25% of the SUV market, which is the compact monocoque segment. That is about 600,000 out of the 25 lakh segment of SUVs. In that segment, we are number 5 player. In the next 2 to 3 years, we would want to be number 1 or number 2 in this segment. The 3XO, which we've launched today, is a disruptor designed to take us from 5 to 1 or 2.
And in global news, Israel and Hamas weighs a fresh ceasefire proposal as pressure mounts on both sides to halt the fighting. In the United States, pro-Palestine protesters take over Columbia University building. Dozens of students also arrested across Texas, Utah and Virginia. Pharma giant AstraZeneca has told a British court that its COVID vaccine can cause a rare side effect which can lead to blood clots and low platelet count. The company is currently facing a barrage of class action suits in the UK. AstraZeneca vaccine was branded as Covishield in India and manufactured by Serum Institute. Ekta Batra joins us now with the details. Ekta, what has the company said?
British-Swedish pharma company AstraZeneca has admitted in court documents that its COVID-19 vaccine developed along with the University of Oxford can cause a rare side effect, TTS or thrombosis, with thrombocytopenia syndrome. AstraZeneca told the court, and I quote, "It is admitted that the AstraZeneca vaccine can, in very rare cases, cause TTS. The causal mechanism is not known." End of quote. TTS is a very rare syndrome characterized by blood clots and low platelet counts. The admission is a part of a lawsuit filed in the UK where Jamie Scott, a father of 2, alleged that AstraZeneca's vaccine, which he took in April 2021, resulted in him developing a blood clot and bleed in the brain, leaving him with severe brain impairment. The vaccine has been shrouded with controversy on possible side effects in the past few years. For example, in March 2021, more than a dozen European countries stopped using AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine over fears of it being linked to blood clots. Currently, there are 51 cases filed against AstraZeneca in the UK on allegations of the side effects of the vaccine. It is important to note that in June 2022, the World Health Organization said, and I quote, a very rare adverse event called thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome, TTS, involving unusual and severe blood clotting events associated with low platelet counts has been reported after vaccination with this vaccine, AstraZeneca. In countries with ongoing SARS-CoV-2 transmission, the benefit of vaccination in protecting against COVID-19 far outweigh the risks, end of quote. When it comes to India, vaccine manufacturer Serum Institute of India produced AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine Covishield. Remember, Covishield and Bharat Biotech's Covaxin were the two most commonly used COVID-19 vaccines in the country. Overwhelming majority of the population received Covishield as compared to Covaxin.
Right, Ekta. Many thanks for those details. On that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up next, the Supreme Court slams the Uttarakhand State Licensing Authority for dragging its feet on Patanjali Ayurved. Details when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Business 360. Let's revisit our top story. The Supreme Court has pulled up the Uttarakhand State Licensing Authority for not taking any action against Patanjali Ayurved. This move has come a day after the Uttarakhand officials suspended the manufacturing license for 14 Patanjali products for 3 months. The court also exempted Baba Ramdev from personally appearing for the next hearing in the misleading advertisements case. Ashmit Kumar joins us now with those details. Ashmit, take us through what the top court has said.
Well, Baba Ramdev as well as Patanjali Ayurved again in focus. The contempt hearing was heard just a few moments back in the Supreme Court right behind me. What's important is that there was a second round of apology ads that were issued by Baba Ramdev as well as Patanjali Ayurved. Those second round of ads, which were significantly larger than the first round of ads, were displayed, were shown to the apex court. And this is something that was welcomed by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said that this is a welcome change. These advertisements that have been published, they mention not just Patanjali Ayurved like the first advertisement, but also mention Baba Ramdev as seen apologizing to the public. These ads were issued in national dailies, and this is something that the apex court has welcomed, saying that this is a marked difference from the first advertisement that was put out, which was more akin to a small classified ad. Now, what's important is that on the back of all of this, some relief has come Baba Ramdev's way. Mukul Rahatgi, the counsel appearing for Baba Ramdev, had sought for exemption from personal appearance. Baba Ramdev, keep in mind, has been appearing in person in all these contempt proceedings. He was here before the apex court as well just a few moments back. He has now been exempted. Baba Ramdev has now been exempted from a personal appearance for the next date of hearing. So when the next hearing happens here, in this case, the contempt case, Baba Ramdev will not have to appear before the top court of the country. But at the same time, important to mention that Supreme Court points out that this is only a one-time measure for now. So the interim relief only for the next hearing, no personal exemption, no personal hearing required for Baba Ramdev. That's one side of the story. The other, of course, is the apex court coming down hard on the state licensing authorities for lack of action. Now, it is in response to that that we find that the state licensing authority for the state of Uttarakhand submitted an affidavit before the top court of the country where they've clarified that they've initiated taking action against Baba Ramdev and Patanjali Ayurved. One, they point out that a criminal complaint is to be filed against Baba Ramdev as well as Patanjali Ayurved. The process for that has been initiated by the state licensing authority. Not just that, the SLA also clarified before the top court that the manufacturing license for as many as 14 products of Patanjali Ayurved has now also been suspended. This suspension is in effect for a 3-month period, subject to appeal, but nonetheless, action taken by the SLA manufacturing license being suspended by the Uttarakhand State Licensing Authority. This again is something that was welcomed by the apex court, but very specific pointed questions were asked of the officers of the State Licensing Authority, why it took them such a long time to spring into action. Could no action have been taken without the reprimand coming from the top court of the country? Why is the Supreme Court's intervention required for the state licensing officers to do their job, to do their duties. And this is something that the state licensing authority officers will now have to come back on, will have to clarify on affidavits. So clearly, the Apex Court coming down hard on Patanjali Ayurved, exempting Baba Ramdev from a personal appearance for the next date of hearing, but nonetheless asking questions of the state licensing authorities why action against him wasn't taken earlier. Back to you.
All right, Ashmit, thank you so much for those details. Now, Member of Parliament from Karnataka's Hassan and grandson of former Prime Minister H.D. Deve Gowda has been suspended from Janata Dal Secular after pressure mounted over alleged sex tapes case. The party has also issued a show-cause notice to him. Prajwal is facing allegations of sexual abuse from several women. He is also accused of filming explicit videos. Prajwal's father, H.D. Revanna, is also an accused in the case. ITC Hotels Group has inaugurated the company's first hotel outside India. The ITC Ratna Deepa marks the company's foray into international markets. According to the ITC Group Chairman Sanjeev Puri, this is just the beginning as ITC has plans to open more hotels in neighbouring countries. The hotel chain, which opened 22 hotels in 24 months, has plans to launch 70 more in the next 5 years. Shivani Bajaj travelled to Colombo to understand why this launch is important for ITC and India-Sri Lanka ties at a broader level. Take a look.
Well, India's hospitality and FMCG giant ITC Group has forayed into the international hospitality arena with its first hotel outside India. We are standing at the ITC Ratnadeep in Colombo. The property has 352 guest rooms, suites and service apartments, each adorned with private balconies with breathtaking waterfront views. Sanjeev Puri, the chairman of ITC Group, said that Sri Lanka has enormous potential to become a tourism hub, and this investment is also a way to push India's neighbour-first policy. This is not just the first international hotel for ITC, it is also the biggest investment ever made by an Indian company in Sri Lanka. The ITC Ratnadeepa in Colombo is situated along the shores of the Indian Ocean on one side and the famous Beara Lake on the other. The hotel Twin Towers stand out in Colombo's business district. The new property has been built at a cost of approximately $500 million, a commitment made during the pre-COVID period. Debt-stricken Sri Lanka has gone through a severe financial crisis, but the country has started showing strong recovery in the last 5 months.
Investments are always directed towards more fundamental analysis at does this place have any unique opportunity, does it have anything unique to offer. Based on a more strategic analysis, we felt that this was the place, this is a place where tourism is bound to come back. There may be some times that have not been very good, but tourism will bounce back, and as we are seeing now, tourism is bouncing back. The economy also has shown resilience.
ITC's investment and commitment is definitely a bright spot for Sri Lanka's economy. The importance can be judged by the fact that none other than the President and Prime Minister of Sri Lanka personally inaugurated the hotel, along with other senior cabinet ministers.
The ITC hotels are welcome to be here and to become a part of the tourist system in Sri Lanka. I have no doubt that this icon will help to increase tourism into Sri Lanka, more particularly from India.
Surge in tourist arrivals has been a major factor in Sri Lanka's economic recovery. The country welcomed 1.5 million tourists last year, generating $2.5 billion in revenue, which is almost double of 2022 levels. It is this growth that brands like ITC want to leverage. President Ranil Wickremesinghe said that Sri Lanka wants to accelerate economic cooperation with India, with tourism as one of the key drivers. The Indian government has been pushing for closer economic linkages with Sri Lanka due to its position as a strategic logistics hub.
India has been the leading economic partner of Sri Lanka. We are the largest trade partner of Sri Lanka, the largest source of FDI in recent years, and since we are here at the opening of a hotel in Colombo, I must add that India is also the largest contributor to tourist traffic into Sri Lanka.
Well, ITC Ratnadeepa is an ultra-luxury property which has multiple restaurants, salons, spas, bar, a sun deck, magnificent views and much more. And this is by far the biggest hotel in Sri Lanka. In Colombo with Vijay Saroj Singh, this is Shivani Bajaj for CNBC-TV18.
And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue on the other side. Stay tuned.